So welcome to the second day of Yoga Vasishtha. Namaskar to all of you. Now, Graham is better. No sound. The idea is you have to listen in the midst of all this. This is the idea. Let's do the prayer first. The mantra before we start the Yoga Vasishtha. Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Yatas Sarvani Bhutani Pradibhanti Sthitani Cha Yatrai Avo Apashamam Yanti Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. I bow down to that reality in which all the elements and all the inanimate and animate beings shine as if they have an independent existence. Karo kuch. Now, okay, I have to start like that. Left side. Okay, right side, back side, front side. Sorry, I had to interrupt because they couldn't hear. Prayer should not be interrupted, the mantra chanting. Anyway, next time we will take care, okay? Can we now check before we start? Now, better. I am behaving like those music performers. तबला का ठीक करो, हारमोनियम सुना ही नहीं दे रहा है. ओम तत्सत श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. यतः सर्वाणि भूतानि प्रतिभान्ति स्थितानि च यत्रै अवो अपशमं यान्ति तस्मै सत्यात्मने नमः. I bow down to that reality in which all the elements and all the animate and inanimate beings shine, important, as if they have an independent existence. Very important part. And in which they exist for a time and then merge back into. I go down to that supreme reality. Next, Jnata Jnanam Tatha Jnayam Drashta Darshana Drishya Bhu Karta Hetu Kriya Yasmat Tasmai Jnanapyatmane Namaha. I bow down again, salutations to that consciousness which is the source of the apparently distinct threefold divisions of knower, known and knowledge. Seer, sight and seen, doing and the deed. Spuranti shikhara yasmad anandasya ambare avanau Sarvesham Jeevanam Tasmai Brahmanandatmane Namaha. Salutations to that bliss absolute, the ocean of bliss, which is the life of all beings, whose happiness and unfoldment are derived from the shower of a spray from that ocean of bliss. Little more, which I missed to chant yesterday. राजराजेश्वरी त्रिपुर सुंदरी कुलकुंडली महामाया की जय। श्री शुद्ध ब्रह्म परात्पर रामचंद्र महाप्रभु की जय। Proceed the student here. पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। प्राणा महामुनि वशिष्ठ महाअवतार महाभाग की जय। श्री जगद्गुरु कृष्ण परमात्मा की जय। श्री भगवत पाद की जय। Now Krishna in his many roles is seen as different, but in the Bhagavad Gita he becomes the Jagadguru. So now we begin. Now those who did not come yesterday, if I repeat, we won't be able to do much. Oh God. We won't be able to do much because it's quite a bit to go. Even as it is, I don't know if we will finish fully, but we need to give a little background to this, and which is that Ramachandra, goes to the forest and studies with Vishwamitra, his teacher, and comes back to the palace, and everybody is happy. Then he goes on a pilgrimage through all the pilgrimage places, and then comes back. Everybody is happy. And then he goes into the inner chambers and refuses to come out. And this is actually part of the larger Valmiki Ramayan. There's a story of how Valmiki was asked to also put this out and not keep it secret. So therefore it's a secret teaching, not meant for everybody. But times have changed, and I think we have all developed enough understanding to at least listen to it. Maybe after many births it will take effect, who knows? Even this person who is sitting here had to undergo so much, so many lives. Read the journey continues. So hopefully somewhere the seed planted can work. And maybe one day it will be okay, or it could happen right now. Who knows how advanced one is from one's past, what we bring, we don't know. Right? So Rama then goes on a pilgrimage and then comes back to the palace. Everybody is happy. And then he goes into his inner chambers and refuses to come out. He is in a kind of depression. He says, what is the meaning of all this life? Why am I living in? So, then Vasishtha, who is in the Puranas considered the son of Brahma, the creator, who is called Mahamuni, who is, the Puranas say, will live till the end of the world, till everybody grasps the truth. He says, and he is always in the palace because he is also an advisor to Dasharatha. So he says, look, let me try. So he sends somebody and says, say that Vasishtha is asking you to come. You have any questions, I'll answer them. So they went, and before they could ask him, Rama is already out. That day he has had a bath, he is clean, he is okay. He comes out and he sits down. Vasishtha sits down, everybody sits down. And then Rama begins his questions. What is the use of this life? And so on and so forth. I am a prince living in the forest, but I am not happy. Why am I not happy? What is the reason why I am not happy? And so on. And the great sage Vasishtha answers his questions one by one. And he gives him an example. He said the great Sukadeva, who was the son of Vyasa, who was already aware of the truth in some way, not completely, who when they, in his young age, when they caught him and put the sacred thread around him, he said, no, don't tie me up. I'm free already. You know, when sannyasins take sannyas, they break the secret thread and put it into the Viraja Homa fire. He said, no, don't do it at all, leave me alone. And went around saying Narayana, Narayana, everywhere, Hari, Hari. But he too asked his father Vyasa one day, do you think I know the truth? The Supreme Being. And Vyasa said, if you have that doubt, that means you are not fully understood it. So he sends him to the great king Janaka, who is supposed to be a king, but a knower of the truth. Janaka makes him wait for 2 weeks, 1 week, I don't know, to test him out. Patiently he waits, he doesn't go away. You can hear me now? No? Patiently he waits, and then Janaka summons him. He goes through the palace in which there are all kinds of music, dance, girls are dancing and all. He goes like this, straight to Janaka. When he sits down and says, please tell me, Janaka stops him and says, wait, you know the truth, what more can I tell you? I have nothing else to, I have confirmed, that's all. I have nothing to tell you. Sukadeva then leaves the palace as a fully realized being. So says Vasishtha, this Rama is like Sukadeva. He knows the truth somewhere deep down, but still there is a covering there which I can help to take off, that's all. He's aware, but his awareness is not yet become confirmed, so I will talk to him. And this is the Yoga Vasishtha. So, I hope those who came late and didn't attend are satisfied with this small, concise presentation. Now Rama asks many questions which I cannot go into them, that is yesterday's chapter. The main thing is, what is the use of this body that comes and goes? What is the meaning of this world which comes and goes? Is there some meaning to this? Is there an essence that remains unchangeable? And which is what we really are in true essence? Please tell me, Vasishtha. I mean, this is the whole thing. He talks about the body's impermanency, Rama. He talks about how the body is just full of worms and bacteria and things like that. And how dirty it is, even if you don't give it a wash for one day. And he goes fully describing this world and how sorrow comes to everybody. People who think they are happy also experience sorrow after some time. Sorrow does not leave anyone alone. Is there a freedom from this circle of birth and death? And this being caught up in this, can we escape this? Everybody is trying to escape it because they are searching for happiness, but it seems to evade. From the poorest to the richest, everybody is suffering. Can we be moved out of this? Is there some way out? And Vasishtha says that, great people sometimes go through this turmoil so that in the end they may be free of the turmoil. And that you are asking me these questions, you are not asking for yourself. You are asking for the human beings who are going to hear this after some time and read the Yoga Vasishtha, or listen to the Yoga Vasishtha. These are meant for them. I don't believe even that you are asking this question. And then he goes on to explain to him one by one, as if he is addressing an ordinary person who is sunk in misery and sorrow. Now, having said all that, I just quote one para of Rama's last question, not last question, here last question. Rama asks innumerable questions after that, but now. The last one is, by reflecting on the pitiable fate of living beings, thus fallen into the dreadful pit of sorrow, I am filled with grief. My mind is confused. I shudder and at every step I am afraid. I have given up everything, but I have not established myself in wisdom. Hence I am partly caught and partly freed. Which means I am caught, but I know that I have to free myself. I kind of have a hint, but I do not know for sure. I am like a tree that has been cut, but not severed from its root. I wish to restrain my mind, but do not have the wisdom to do so. Hence, tell me, what is that condition or state in which one does not experience any grief whatsoever? How can one who is involved in this world and its activities as I am reach the supreme state of peace and bliss? So now, here it's made clear that it is not meant for only renunciants or sannyasins. Rama says, how can one who is involved in the world and its activities as I am reach the supreme state of peace and bliss? What is that attitude that enables one not to be influenced by the various kinds of activities and experiences? The mind to be freed from lust and made to view the world both as one's own self and also not even as valuable as a blade of grass. The biography of which great one we shall study. What should I study? Whose life should I study in order to learn the path of wisdom? How should one live in this world? Holy Sir, instruct me in that wisdom which will enable my otherwise restless mind to be steady like a mountain. You are an enlightened being. Instruct me so that I may never again be sunk in grief. Obvious. There's one way of doing this, to be free and not sunk in grief. Catch hold of people and put electrodes in their head. Obviously, this world is full of pain and death. How does it become a source of joy without befuddling one's heart? Mind is obviously full of impurities. How can it be cleansed? With what cleanser? What detergent has been prescribed by the great sages? How should one live here so as not to fall victim to the twin currents of love and hate? Obviously, there is a secret that enables one to remain unaffected by the grief and suffering of the world. What is that secret? What is the secret that counteracts the habit of the mind that is spread out in the form of this universe? Who are those heroes who have freed themselves from delusion? And what method did they adopt to free themselves? If you consider that I am neither fit nor capable of understanding this, then I will fast unto death. Valmiki said, having said so, Rama remained silent. He has said what he had to say, then he just kept quiet. Now, all those who had assembled in the court of Dasharatha were highly inspired by the flaming words of Rama's wisdom, which is capable of dispelling the delusion of the mind. They felt as if they themselves had been rid of all their doubts. They drank the nectarine words of Rama with great delight. As they sat in the court listening to Rama's words, it appeared as though they were no longer living beings but painted figures. They were so rapt with attention. Who listened to Rama's discourse? Who are the people? Sages like Vasishtha and Vishwamitra, the ministers, the members of the royal family including Dasharatha, citizens, holy ones, servants, caged birds, animal pets, horses of the royal stable, and the celestials including perfected sages and heavenly musicians. Surely even the king of heaven and the chiefs of the netherworld listened to Rama. Thrilled to hear Rama's speech, all of them said, "Bravo, bravo." with one voice to felicitate Rama. There was a shower of flowers. Everyone cheered him. We were indeed extremely fortunate, but Rama was unmoved and silent. Perfected sages in the assembly said, surely the answers that the holy ones are about to give to the weighty and wise questions of Rama are worthy of being heard by all beings in the universe. O sages, come, come, let us gather in the court of King Dasharatha to listen to the answer of the supreme sage Vasishtha. Valmiki said, now Valmiki is saying, not Vasishtha, who is the author. Hearing this, all the sages of the world hastened to the court, where they were duly received and honored and seated. Surely, in our heart, the lofty wisdom of Rama is not reflected. We shall indeed be the losers. Whatever be our abilities and faculties, we shall thereby prove that we have lost our intelligence. The word used is hata buddhaya. If we don't listen to this, it's as if our buddhi is lost. Vishwamitra then stood up and said, O Rama, you are indeed the foremost among the wise, so on and so forth. Then he teaches him about how Sukha went to Janaka, which I told you already. Then Vasishtha said, I shall surely accede to your request, Rama. I shall now impart to you the wisdom which was revealed to me by the divine creator Brahma himself. In fact, even the countless universes that exist at this moment are impossible to conceive of. All this can immediately be realized in one's own heart, for these universes are the creations of the desires that arise in the heart. They are castles built in the air. Who said Shakespeare used that expression? Neither the world of matter nor the modes of creation are truly real. Yet, soon as Dushta Vimana goes, not Pushpa Vimana. Neither the world of matter nor the modes of creation are truly real. Yet, the living and the dead think and feel that they are real. Ignorance of this truth keeps up this appearance. Vasishtha continued, O Rama, listen carefully. Even as water remains water, whether there are waves or there are no waves, whatever be the external appearance of the liberated sage, his wisdom remains unchanged. The difference is only in the eyes of the ignorant spectator. Therefore, O Rama, listen to what I am about to say. This instruction is sure to remove the darkness of ignorance. Teaching begins. Listen carefully. In this world, whatever is gained by self-effort. First statement of Vasishtha, teaching. This is obvious. What is called faith is a fictitious word and is not seen. Self-effort, O Rama, is that mental, verbal and physical action which is in accordance with the instructions of the holy ones well versed in the scriptures. It's only by such effort that even Indra became the king of heaven, when Brahma became the creator, and other deities earned their place. Self-effort is of two categories. Listen carefully. That of past births and that of this birth. The latter, meaning this birth, the self-effort of this birth counteracts the self-effort of the past. Fate is none other than self-effort of a past incarnation. What you call fate is a misnomer. You are reaping the results and the fruits of what you did before in the past birth through self-effort. There is constant conflict between these two in this incarnation. What is more powerful? Triumphs. Self-effort, which is not in accordance with the scriptures, is motivated by delusion. When there is obstruction in the fruit of self-effort, one should examine it to see if this is a deluded action, and if there is, it should be immediately corrected. There is no power greater than right action in the present. Hence, one should take recourse to self-effort, grinding one's teeth, and one should overcome evil by good and fate by the present effort. So what is fate as defined by Vasishtha? Fate is the result of your past birth self-effort. You don't see it, so therefore you call it fate. There is no other fate. And it can be counteracted by your present effort. I know astrologers will be out of business if they hear this. But this is what Vasishtha says in the Yoga Vasishtha. The lazy man, I am not saying this please, Vasishtha, the lazy man is worse than a donkey. One should never yield to laziness but strive to attain liberation, seeing that life is ebbing away every moment. One should not revel in the filth known as sense pleasures, as a worm revels in pus. One who says, fate is directing me to do this, is brainless, and the goddess of fortune abandons him. Now this is also the case with all people who in the material sense have also gathered power and wealth. When they fell down once or twice, if they said, it is my fate, now I am doomed, they would not have risen. They would have been still lying there. The brave ones, in a different context, they are not beaten by anything, they keep going till they reach the top. Same you apply to the spiritual effort. When you are greater than those, while they are reveling in wealth, you are reveling in the giver of wealth. One who says fate is directing me to do this is brainless, and the goddess of fortune abandons them. Hence, by self-effort, acquire wisdom, and then realize that this self-effort is not without its own end in the direct realization of truth. If this dreadful source of evil named laziness is not found on earth, who will ever be illiterate and poor? It is because laziness is found on earth that people live like animals, miserable and poverty-stricken. At this stage, it was time for evening prayers and the assembly broke up for the day. This is where we stopped. Vasishtha began the second day's discourse. As is the effort, so is the fruit, O Rama. This is the meaning of self-effort. It is also called divine will. Why? Because your will and the divine will are not from different sources. I am saying. When afflicted by suffering, people cry, alas, what tragedy, look at my fate. What is called fate or divine will is nothing other than the action or self-effort of your past. The present is infinitely more potent than the past. They indeed are fools who are satisfied with the fruits of their past effort, which they now regard as divine will, and do not engage themselves in self-effort anymore. Sometimes it happens that without effort, someone makes a great gain. You look at that and say, oh, look at his destiny. For example, the state elephant chooses, in accordance with an ancient practice, a mendicant as the ruler of a country whose king suddenly died without leaving an heir. This is certainly neither an accident nor some kind of divine act, but the fruit of the mendicant's self-effort in the past. Sometimes it happens that a farmer's efforts are made fruitless by a hailstorm. Surely the hailstorm's own power was greater than the farmer's effort, and the farmer should put forth greater effort. He should not grieve over the inevitable loss. If such grief is justified, why would he not weep daily over the inevitability of death? Everybody knows death is coming. Why are we not sitting, oh, death is coming, so I don't want to buy lipstick today? The wise man should of course know what is capable of attainment by self-effort and what is not. It is ignorance, however, to attribute all this to an outside agency and to say that God sends me to heaven or hell, or that outside agency makes me do this or that. Such an ignorant person should be shunned. What do you do with religions that teach so? One should free oneself from likes and dislikes and engage oneself in righteous self-effort and reach the supreme truth, knowing that self-effort alone is another name for divine will. We only ridicule the fatalist. That alone is self-effort which springs from right understanding, and that manifests in one's heart, which has been exposed to the teachings of the scriptures and the conduct of holy ones. O Rama, one should, with a body free from illness and mind free from distress, pursue self-knowledge so that he is not born here again and again. Such self-effort has a threefold root and therefore a threefold fruit: an inner awakening in intelligence, a decision in the mind, and physical action related to that. Self-effort is based on these three. Right self-effort, not wrong self-effort. What is that? Knowledge of the scriptures, instructions of the preceptor, and one's own effort. Fate or divine dispensation does not enter here. Hence, he or she who desires salvation should divert the impure mind to pure endeavor by persistent effort. This is the very essence of all scriptures. Fate or divine dispensation is merely a convention which has come to be regarded as truth by being repeatedly declared to be true. If this God or fate is truly the ordainer of everything in this world, then what is the meaning of any action, even like bathing, speaking, giving? And whom should one teach at all? If this can be taught only if there is destiny, then why should I start teaching? I can say enough. Why sadhana? Everything is divinely disposed. So why sadhana? No, in this world, everything except a corpse. Even I beg to differ, even the corpse, there is activity going on inside. Everything is active, and such activity yields its appropriate result. No one has ever realized the existence of a fate or divine dispensation. People use such expressions as I am impelled by fate or divine dispensation. for self-satisfaction, but it's not true. For example, and I have seen this many times in a different way, but for example, if an astrologer predicts that a young man would become a great scholar, okay? Does that young man become a great scholar without study? He just keeps quiet at home and becomes a great scholar. Maybe when the astrologer said he's going to become a great man, he was inspired, maybe, to study. Right? I have seen marriages performed by certain people who some people consider as gods fail in 2 weeks. What do you say about that? On the other hand, somebody who runs away with somebody might be still living with. I'm not saying you should run away with anybody. I'm giving you an example. Rama, this sage Vishwamitra is there, became a Brahma Rishi by self-effort. All of us have attained self-knowledge by self-effort. Hence, renounce fatalism and apply yourself to self-effort. About Vishwamitra was born a Kshatriya, the warrior clan. His greatest desire in life was to become a Brahma Rishi, which means a Rishi who is Brahmanical. He is a Kshatriya. Many times he even fought in some ways with Vasishtha for that. Finally, through his effort, even though he was a Kshatriya, he was made a Brahma Rishi. Everybody proclaimed, now this man is a Brahma Rishi. Therefore, the Gayatri was given by him, which today thousands of people chant every day. Laziness sometimes also comes as an excuse. Nobody is listening to me, so I won't be the chairman, I will give up, and things like that. It's laziness in disguise. Vasishtha continued. The cosmic order that people refer to as fate, Devam or Niyati, and which ensures that every effort is blessed with appropriate fruition, is based on the omnipresent and omnipotent Brahman. By self-effort, therefore, restrain the senses and the mind. And with a mind that is one-pointed, calmly listen to what I am going to say. The narrative deals with liberation. Listening to it with other wise seekers who are assembled here, you will realize that the Supreme Being, where there is no sorrow or distraction. This was revealed to me by the Creator Brahma himself in a previous age. O Rama, the omnipresent, omniscient, cosmic being shines eternally in all beings. When a vibration arises in that cosmic being, Vishnu is born as a wave on the surface of the water when the ocean is moved. From that Vishnu, Brahma, the Creator, is born. Then Brahma creates the countless varieties of animate and inanimate, sentient and insentient beings in the universe. And the universe was as it was before the cosmic delusion. This is not the first time. After every Manvantara, there is a new creator. A new world is created which is almost similar to what was before and which was destroyed during the Pralaya. So it's a cyclic action going on. Create, preserve, destroy. It's a cycle, it moves, it keeps moving. That's why it's called the Jagat, because yatkintya jagatyam jagat. That which moves, therefore it's called the Jagat. Now, the Creator then saw that all the living beings in the universe were subject to disease and death, to pain and suffering. So there arose compassion, and he sought to lay down a path that might lead living beings away from all this. He thereupon instituted centers of pilgrimage and noble virtues like austerity, charity, truthfulness and conduct. But these were inadequate. They could bestow only temporary relief from suffering and not final liberation. Reflecting thus, the Creator brought me into being. He drew me to himself and drew the veil of ignorance over my heart. I forgot my identity and my self-nature. I was miserable. Then, with great effort, I begged of Brahma, the Creator, my own father, to show me the way out of this misery. Sunk in my misery, I was unable and unwilling to do anything. I remained lazy and inactive. In response to my prayer, my father revealed to me the true knowledge which instantly dispelled the veil of ignorance, and he himself had spread over me. The Creator then said to me, my son, I veiled the knowledge and revealed it to you so that you may experience His glory. For only then will you be able to understand the travail of ignorant human beings and how to help them, which was why I put you into ignorance. Rama, equipped with this knowledge, I am here, says Vasishtha, and I will continue to be here till the end of creation, till every living being understands this fact. That's why Vasishtha is addressed in the prayer as Mahamuni. And Shyamacharan Lahiri used to call Babaji Mahamuni. I'm going to skip some because not Rama's questions, of course. Okay. Even so, in every age, several sages come for spiritual enlightenment of all. Brahma also creates kings who rule justly and wisely over parts of the earth. These kings, however, are soon corrupted by lust for power and pleasure. Conflict of interest leads to wars among them, which in turn gives rise to remorse. To remove their ignorance, the sages used to impart spiritual wisdom to them. In days of yore, O Rama, kings used to receive this wisdom and cherish it. Hence, it was known as Raja Vidya, kingly science, because the kings were also taught. And many kings attained liberation. So it doesn't matter whether you're a king or a servant, now this is the statement. You can still learn the Brahma Vidya and be free. To say that I can learn it only if I stop all activity or drive my car with closed eyes is not the solution. The highest form of dispassion, born of pure discrimination, has arisen in your heart, O Rama, and it is superior to dispassion born of circumstantial causes. Now, circumstantial causes mean, suppose I lose heavily in business, and then I am depressed. Then I say I am giving up everything, I want to know the supreme truth. This will last only as long as a bank says I can give you a 10 crore loan. After that it will disappear. That thought for liberation gone. So he is saying, Rama, you don't have any such problem, and still you live in the palace, you are the prince, and yet you are not happy. I mean, there is true dispassion. Once when Swami Vivekananda was touring the length and breadth of the country, in Maharashtra he met a young man, not about Maharashtra, they are very spiritual people, so met a man who said, I want to give up everything and become like the Buddha. So Swamiji said, very good idea, sit down. So what is your educational qualification? He said, nothing. You come from a wealthy or a well-known family? No, nothing. Do you have a wife and kids and a lot of land or nothing? He said, what are you going to give up? Buddha gave up his whole kingdom. Then he said, go now, do whatever you want, even become a dacoit, steal what you want, and come back to me with lot of money and say, I've got this much, I'm going to give up. And find more. So here Vasishtha is saying to Rama, it's not circumstances that made you feel this way. You have everything, so what? That's what people think. But you are still saying, I need to find liberation. So now this is genuine. So, such dispassion is surely the grace of the great and of God. This grace meets the maturity of discrimination at the exact moment, and dispassion is generated in the heart. As long as highest wisdom does not dawn in the heart, the person revolves in this wheel of birth and death. So please listen to me with a concentrated mind, says Vasishtha. This wisdom destroys the forest of ignorance. Roaming in this forest, one undergoes confusion and interminable suffering. One should therefore approach an enlightened teacher. Now that is the biggest problem, no? And by asking the right question with the right attitude, elicit the teaching. It then becomes an integral part of one's being. Now here is something interesting. What did he say? One should therefore approach an enlightened teacher, which of course in Kali Yuga is, you have to go with a microscope. And by asking the right question with the right attitude, right question, right attitude, elicit the teaching. It then becomes an integral part of one's being. And then says Vyasa, the fool asks irrelevant questions irreverently. And the greater fool is the one who spurns the sage's wisdom. A true sage will not respond to the vain questions of a foolish questioner. Only ignorant fellows like me respond. Oh Rama, you are indeed the best among all speakers, for you have duly reflected over the truth and you are inspired by the best forms of dispassion. I am sure that what I am going to say will have a firm seat in your heart. Indeed, one should positively strive to enthrone wisdom in one's heart. And for the mind is unsteady like a monkey. One should then avoid unwise company. In brackets, one should therefore avoid unwise company. Now, Rama, there are 4 gatekeepers. We also have 4 gates. To the entrance to the realm of freedom, moksha. Here are the 4 doorkeepers. They are self-control, 1. Spirit of Enquiry, the other. Contentment, 3. And good company. The wise seekers should diligently cultivate the wisdom of these, or at least one of them. He said, I didn't. Vasishtha continued, with a pure heart and a receptive mind, and without the veil of doubt and the restlessness of mind, listen to the exposition of the nature and means of liberation. For not until the Supreme Being is realized will the dreadful miseries of birth and death come to an end. If this deadly serpent known as ignorant life is not overcome here and now, it gives rise to interminable suffering for countless lives to come. One cannot ignore this suffering. One should overcome it by means of the wisdom that I impart to you. Then, if you thus overcome this sorrow of birth and death, of samsara, you will live here on earth itself like a god, like Brahma or Vishnu. For when delusion is gone and truth is realized by means of self-enquiry, when the mind is at peace and the heart leaps to the supreme truth, when all the disturbing thought waves in the mind stuff have subsided, what did Patanjali say? Yoga Vasishtha vritti nirodha. When all the thought waves in the mind stuff have subsided, and there is unbroken flow of peace, and the heart is filled with the bliss of Absolute, the truth has been seen in the heart, then this very world becomes an abode of bliss. You don't have to go anywhere else. Prasanna chittatve hridi shambhave valagati pare. This is how it goes. In order to cross this formidable ocean of samsara, one should resort to that which is eternal and unchanging. He alone is the best, whose mind rests in the eternal, and therefore fully self-controlled and at peace. He sees that pleasure and pain chase and cancel each other. In that wisdom there is self-control and peace. He who does not see this sleeps in a burning house. He who gains the wisdom of the eternal is freed from samsara. Thus, the eternal is not attained by rites and rituals, by pilgrimages, nor by wealth. It is to be attained by the conquest of one's mind. To add one more serious note to this Kathopanishad, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhya. It cannot even be attained through Pravachana. So what should I do? But then if I don't say that, how do you know it is so? Hence everyone, gods, demons, demigods or men, should constantly seek, whether one is walking, falling or sitting, the conquest of the mind and self-control, which are the fruits of wisdom. When the mind is at peace, pure, tranquil, free from delusion or hallucination, untangled and free from cravings, it does not long for anything, nor does it reject anything. This is self-control, conquest of the mind. That is, all that is good and auspicious flows from self-control. All evil is dispelled by self-control. No gain, no pleasure in the world or in heaven is comparable to the delight of self-control. The delight one experiences in the presence of self-control is incomparable. Such a person, everyone spontaneously trusts him. None hates him. Self-control, O Rama, is the best remedy for all physical and mental ills. When there is self-control, even the food one eats tastes better. He who wears the armor of self-control is not harmed by sorrow. He who, even while hearing, touching, seeing, smelling and tasting what is regarded as pleasant and unpleasant, is neither elated nor depressed. He is self-controlled. He who looks upon all beings with equal vision, having brought under control the sensations of pleasure and pain, is self-controlled. He who, though living amongst all, is unaffected by them, neither feels elated nor hates, is self-controlled. The second gatekeeper to liberation, Enquiry, should be undertaken by an intelligence that has been purified by a close study of the scriptures, and this inquiry should be unbroken. By such inquiry, the intelligence becomes keen and is able to realize the Supreme. The wise man regards strength, intellect, efficiency, and timely action as the fruits of inquiry. The eye of spiritual inquiry does not lose its sight even in the midst of all activities. He who does not have this eye is indeed to be pitied. It is better to be born as a frog in the mud, a worm in the dung, or a snake in a hole, but not to be without this eye of inquiry. So what is this inquiry? To inquire, who am I? How has this evil of samsara come into being? Is true inquiry. Knowledge of truth arises from such inquiry. From such knowledge follows tranquility, and then arises the supreme peace that passeth understanding, and the ending of all sorrow. Vasishtha continued. The third guard at the gate, the third doorway. Contentment is another gatekeeper to liberation. He who has quaffed the nectar of contentment does not relish craving for sense pleasures, no delight in this world as sweet as contentment which destroys all sins. What is contentment? To renounce all craving for what is not obtained unsought, and to be satisfied with what comes unsought without being elated or depressed by them. This is contentment. As long as one is not satisfied in the self, he will be subject to sorrow. With the rise of contentment, the purity of one's heart blooms. The contented man who possesses nothing owns the whole world. Then Satsanga, which is the fourth doorway, company of wise and enlightened person, is another gatekeeper to liberation. Satsanga enlarges one's intelligence, destroys one's ignorance and one's psychological distress, whatever be the cost, however difficult it may be, whatever obstacles may stand in its way. Satsanga should never be neglected, for Satsanga alone is one's light on the path of life. Satsanga is indeed superior to all other forms of religious practices, even charity, austerity, pilgrimage and the performance of religious sites. According to Vasishtha, the most important virtue, doorway to the supreme liberation is Satsanga. Because if you don't have Satsanga, you will naturally have Dursanga. Because a human being is a society animal, he cannot live alone and think for himself. So he thinks usually according to the people who surround. So if you don't have Satsanga, you don't have around you people who are dedicated to the truth, or listen or hear or read or understand about this, naturally you will fall into Dursanga. There is no way out. You cannot live. You think you may, I am independent, I don't know. Yes, that happens when you are liberated. Then you are independent, nothing affects you, that's different. So these four, contentment, Satsanga, company of the wise, spirit of inquiry and self-control are the surest means to be saved from the ocean of samsara. Contentment, santosha, is the supreme gain. Satsanga is the best companion to the destination. The spirit of inquiry is greatest wisdom, and self-control is supreme happiness. If you are unable to resort to all these four, then practice at least one. By diligent practice of one, the others will follow. I have enumerated this far the qualities required to achieve liberation. You are indeed such a qualified person, O Rama. 1. Who sows the seed of knowledge of the scripture soon obtains the fruit of the realization of truth. So I am happy. I am at least sowing the seeds. So I think I will be liberated. What do you think? Though human in origin, an exposition of truth is to be accepted. Otherwise, even what is regarded as divine revelation can be rejected. Even a young boy's words are to be accepted if they are words of wisdom. If not, reject them like straw, even if uttered by Brahma, the Creator. And so on and so forth. Anyway, at this stage, the sun spread towards the western hills. As if eager to meditate upon the sage words and to illumine other parts of the earth, the assembly dispersed for prayers. Next morning, all the members of the court reassembled as before. Then Rama asked, "O holy sage, pray tell me what the mind really is." Serious question. Anybody? What is this mind? Vasishtha replied, even as empty, inert nothingness is known as space, mind is empty nothingness. Whether the mind is real or unreal, it is that which is apprehended in objects of perception. Rama, let me define. Thought is mind. There is no difference between the two. You cannot think of mind without thought, right? So when thought ceases, there is no mind, right? When there is mind, no mind, there is only the eternal Brahman, nothing else. I mean, can you think of a mind without thought? I mean, when I say, now my mind is without, there is a thought. Mind is manufactured by thought. The moment thought ceases, there is no mind. But there is something, and that is the eternal. I would suggest that people who are reading now with the book, please put it down. Because instead of listening, you want to understand the word, I tell you. Even if it is written in Russian. Please listen. Because listening is more important than reading. You know, this is why listening is listening to the Shruti. Shruti is that which is heard through the Shrotra, through the ear. Not read, memorized, then thought about. No. When the mind is ready, then the Shruti falls like a seed and immediately the seed sprouts. So, listening is very, very important. You can hear and still not listen. That's also there. Because if your mind is occupied by something else, then you're not listening. No, sorry, you can read if you want. I was just stating that. And also don't meditate and close your eyes and go into oblivion. Sometimes people close their eyes and meditate because they don't want to listen to the truth. That you can be in your own cocoon and not listen to it. Say, having said that, you can meditate if you want. No questions, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. I will keep my word. when I go deep into something, then the voice somehow drops. I'll try my best. I'm sorry. Bhavani Tvam Dase. Okay. Now, even as empty, inert nothingness is known as space, the mind is empty nothingness. Whether the mind is real or unreal, it is that which is apprehended in objects of perception. Without mind you can't. Rama, thought is mind. There is no distinction between the two. The self that is clothed in the spiritual body is known as the mind. It is that which brings the material or physical body into existence. Ignorance, samsara, mind stuff, bondage, impurity, darkness, inertia, they're all defined with one word, thought. Experience is also mind. It is none other than the perceived. The mind is made up of what is perceived outside. So when the mind ceases, what is perceived outside ceases. There is nothing left. This entire universe is forever non-different from the consciousness that dwells in every atom. Even as an ornament is not different from gold, just as an ornament potentially exists in gold, I shouldn't drop my voice, the object exists in the subject. But when this notion of the object is firmly rejected, then you see only the gold, not the object. When this is realized, evils like attraction and repulsion, love and hate, cease in one's heart, as also the false notions of the world, you and I. Even the tendency to objectify ceases. This is freedom. First of all, we don't know what love is. Every day in my email I receive hundreds of messages. In the end it says, I love you. What is this love? Who do you love? Where does it come from? Rama said, Holy Sir, if the object of perception is real, if the object of perception, you, here, this book, everything is real, then it shall not cease to be. It should be always there. If it is unreal, then we do not see it as unreal. You say it is unreal, but I see it as real. So what do I do? How can I overcome this? Vasishtha said, O Rama, we see that there are holy ones who have overcome this, the great rishis, the great beings. External objects like space and psychological factors like I exist only in name. In reality, neither the objective universe, nor the perceiving self, nor perception as such, nor void, nor inertness exists. Only one cosmic consciousness exists. In this, it is the mind that conjures up the diversity, diverse actions and experiences, the notion of bondage and the desire for liberation. It is all manufactured by the mind. Rama didn't leave him there. He said, Oh holy sage, what is the source of this mind and how did it arise? Kindly enlighten me on this. Now Vasishtha didn't say, shut up. Vasishtha replied, after the cosmic dissolution, Maha Pralaya, after the Maha Pralaya, and before the next creation cycle dawned, the entire objective universe was in a state of perfect equilibrium. There then existed the Supreme Lord, the eternal, unborn, self-effulgent, who is all and who is omnipotent, who is still here and who is you and me. Now, he didn't say, I am saying. He is beyond conception and description. Those known by various names like Atma, etc., these are only descriptions and not the truth. He is, yet he is not. He is within the body too, yet he is far away. Tad dure tad vatantike. Far and yet so near. From it emerges countless deities like Lord Vishnu and so on. Even as countless rays emerge from the sun, from him emerge infinite worlds as ripples arise from the surface of the ocean. Now, here is something very interesting. This is the Supreme Self to be realized, O Rama, and there is no other means than wisdom, austerity and penance, charity and the observances of religious vows do not lead to the realization of the Lord. Only the company of holy men and the study of true scriptures are helpful as they dispel the ignorance and delusion. Even when one is convinced that this self alone is real, one goes beyond sorrow on the path of liberation. So Satsanga, according to Vasishtha, is the most important to live with people. Now, the problem is, if I say this, hundreds of people will like to live with me all the time. It doesn't mean physical proximity, it means understanding what a person is saying. Some people say suddenly, oh, I want to finish my legs. I want to finish everything. I don't want to do any work. I'll come to Madanapalli and I said, do what? What will you do in Madanapalli? It's not that. You may be sitting in California, it's all right. Or you may be sitting in Switzerland, that's fine. But are you thinking about the things we are discussing? This is important. This is Satsanga. Okay, if you think Satsanga is to be physically always in the presence of somebody or holding on to the person or hugging the person, what happens when the person is dead? Do you think anybody lives forever? No. You have to let go, right? And then you become attached to the form and the figure. It's nothing to do with the reality. It's only a refined attachment, that's all. To be free. The teaching is more important than the teacher. Now, after all this is learned, Rama did not tell Vasishtha, I will always be with you. You have taught me that. He became free of even Vasishtha. The Supreme Self cannot be realized, O Rama, by means other than wisdom, not indeed by exerting oneself in any religious practice. This Self is neither far nor near. It is not inaccessible, nor is it in a distant place. It is what in oneself appears to be the experience of bliss and therefore realized in oneself. Austerity and penance, charity and religious vows do not lead to the realization of the Lord. The company of holy men and the study of scriptures are helpful, but they dispel the ignorance and delusion. Austerity or penance is self-inflicted pain. Of what value is charity performed? With wealth earned by deceiving others, only they derive the fruits of such charity. Religious observances add to one's vanity. There is only one remedy for the ignorance of the Lord, a firm and decisive giving up of craving for sense pleasure. Rama asks, so where does this Lord dwell? Who is asking? The Lord is asking, where does this Lord dwell and how can I reach him? You see the Ramayan, the entire Valmiki Ramayan. Many rishis, many people come to Rama and say, oh, you're the incarnation of Ramayana. Of Narayana, and this, that. What does Rama say? Nothing. Neither an yes nor a no. He only says, I am Dasharatha's son and I am going to Lanka to get Sita back, who has been taken away by Rama. And therefore he is called Maryada Purusha, one who knows how to behave. You follow the rules of behavior. Why? And today we have dozens of incarnations who say, I am the incarnation of Narayana or Shiva or what the hell they say, I don't know. Where is Rama and where are these? I have a feeling that incarnations are mass produced these days. Rama asked, where does this Lord dwell and how can I reach him? Vasishtha replied, he who has been described as the Lord is not very far. He is the intelligence dwelling in the body. He is the universe, though the universe is not he. He is pure and intelligent. He is purity and intelligence. Rama remarked, even little boy says that the Lord is intelligence. What need is there for special instruction concerning this? Vasishtha replied, one who knows that pure intelligence is the objective universe knows nothing. Sentient is the universe and sentient is the soul. The sentient creates the knowable and gets involved in sorrow. When there is cessation of the knowable and the flow of attention is towards the origin, then one goes beyond sorrow and is fulfilled. Without the cessation of the knowable, one's attention cannot be finally turned away from the knowable. Mere awareness of the involvement of the jiva in the samsara is of no use. But if the Supreme is known, sorrow comes to an end. Rama asked, tongue in cheek, Holy Sir, please describe the Lord. Vasishtha replied, the cosmic intelligence in which the universe, as it were, ceases to be. The cosmic intelligence in which the universe, as it were, ceases to be. He is the Lord. In Him, the subject-object relationship appears to have ceased. He is the void in which the universe appears to exist. In Him, even cosmic consciousness stands like a mountain. Rama asked, how can we realize that Lord? And realize the unreality of the universe that we think is real? Vasishtha answered, the Lord can be realized only if one is firmly established in the unreality of the universe, as the blueness of the sky is unreal. Dualism presupposes unity and non-dualism suggests dualism. Only when creation is known to be utterly non-existent, that the Lord is realized. Rama asked, Holy Sir, by what method is this known? And what should I know by which the knowable comes to an end? Vasishtha replied, the wrong notion that this world is real has become deep-rooted on account of persistent wrong thinking. However, it can be removed the very day on which you resort to the company of holy men and to the study of the Holy Scripture. Of all the scriptures, this Maha Ramayanam is the best. What is found here is found elsewhere. What is not found here is not found anywhere else. However, if one does not wish to study this, one is welcome to study any other scripture. When the wrong notion is dispelled and the truth realized, that realization so thoroughly saturates one that one only thinks of it, only speaks of it, only rejoices in it, and teaching it to others also rejoice. Some people, such people are called Jeevanmuktas and also Videhamuktas. Rama asked, Lord, what are the characteristics of a Jeevanmukta, liberated soul while still living? Or a Videhamukta, who is liberated and who seems to have a body and has none? Vasishtha replied, He who, can you hear Bhavani? He who, while living an apparently normal life, experiences the whole world as an emptiness, is a Jeevanmukta. He is awake. He is awake. It's a lost and found cry. What to do? See the desperation in the voice. Somebody is lost. He who, while living an apparently normal life, experiences the whole world as an emptiness, is a Jeevanmukta. He is awake, but enjoys the calmness of deep sleep. He is unaffected in the least by pleasure or pain. He is awake in deep sleep, but he is never awake to this world. His wisdom is unclouded by latent tendencies of past births. He appears to be subject to likes and dislikes, and sometimes even fear, but in fact, he is as free as the space. He is free from egotism and volition, and his intelligence is unattached whether in action or in inaction. Now, bottom line, none is afraid of him, and he is afraid of none. He becomes a Videhamukta when in due time the body drops off. The Videhamukta is, yet is not I nor the other. He is the sun that shines, Vishnu that protects all, Rudra that destroys all, Brahma that creates all. He is the space, the earth, the water and the fire. He is in fact cosmic consciousness, which is the essence of all beings. Rama asked Vasishtha, Lord, my perception is distorted. How can I attain that state you have indicated? Seems quite lofty. My vision looks quite distorted. I think this Rama is a cleverer person than we thought. This Rama is asking all these questions so that tomorrow the Veda Yoga Vasishtha is heard by others. So the questions are meant for you and me. I do not personally think that Rama has any questions, but it's meant for humanity, out of compassion, I'm telling you. So, Rama asked, Lord, my perception is distorted. How can I attain to that state that you have indicated? Vasishtha replied, what is known as liberation, O Rama, is indeed the absolute self itself, which alone is. That which is perceived here as I, you, just seems to be, for it has never been created. How can we say that the Brahman has become all these worlds? In ornaments I see only gold. In waves I see only water. In air I see only movement. In space, I see only emptiness. In a mirage, I see only heat and nothing else. Similarly, I see only Brahman, the Absolute, in all this world. The perception of the worlds is beginningless ignorance. Yet it will vanish with the help of inquiring into the truth. Now Rama says, Holy Sir, how can it be said to be not empty, not be illuminated, and not dark? By such contradictory expressions, you are confusing me. Vasishtha replied, Rama, you are asking immature questions. And yet, I shall elucidate the correct meaning. Even as the uncarved image is forever present in a block. You know, when you want to make a vigraha to be put in a temple, first step is to find a rock, then to find a proper, what is it called? Sculptor who will make finally Shiva instead of a diamond out of the rock. So he should know what he is doing. And then he starts carving. Now please believe me, when it is over you see Krishna or Rama or what, Shiva. But when he starts, there is nothing there. Now you can't say there is nothing there, because when everything is chipped off, only this is there. So what does the man do? He chips off what is unnecessary. What is left is the image. Same way, all this discussion is to chip off the unnecessary. What remains is the reality. So when Adi Shankara Bhagavad, which some schools hate him, they say that if you listen to Mayavada, you'll go to hell 100 times and so on. But what Shankara meant by neti, not this, was that nothing that you define can be the reality, therefore cut everything off. Something will remain which you cannot define, and that is the reality. This is what he meant. He did not deny the existence of that Supreme, no. Although some of his descriptions are close to Shunyavada, so people don't like it. But it's true. It's not so. Anyway. Even as the uncarved image is forever present in a block, the world, whether you regard it as real or unreal, remains in the Absolute, and therefore not void. Just as one cannot say that there are no waves present in a calm ocean, the Absolute is not empty of the world. Of course, these illustrations have limited application and should not be exceeded. In truth, however, this world does not rise from the Absolute, nor does it merge in it. The Absolute alone exists, now and forever. There is no world. When one thinks of it as a void, it is because of the feeling one has that it is not void. When one thinks of it as not void, it is because there is a feeling that it is void, but it is all our feeling. Nobody can define the Absolute. The Absolute is immaterial, and so material sources of light like sun do not illuminate. To quote a sloka from the Gita, natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mind, says Krishna, as the Supreme Brahman, not as the image that you see. Tatra chak, that is the Upanishad. Natad bhasayate suryo na shashango na pavaka. There is no sun shining, nor the moon, nor the fire. I read a modern translation which said, where there is no electricity. Anyway, which means it does not need an external light to illuminate. That's what it means. We need light to illuminate. It's light itself in its original state. When the notion of this little self is destroyed, the little self, which is the I. Now you know why I don't use the iPhone. When the notion of the self is destroyed by the withdrawal of the fuel of ideas from the mind, that which is the infinite. That which is not sleep nor inert, it is the infinite. It is on account of the infinite that knowledge, knower and known exist as one. Now there are some cosmological questions which we can avoid, and we need to go to about cosmic dissolution and where does the world disappear at dissolution and so on. So let us, I think we have a general idea what is being conveyed, right? At this stage, the third evening set in and the assembly dispersed. The last sentence in this before the dispersal was, but because of the unreality of the universe, etc., it cannot be said that its own cause, namely the unconscious, namely the conscious, is also unreal. Such a statement would only be a set of words with no meaning. He is saying that if I say that this whole universe is only a projection, now projection has to be projected from somewhere. I cannot say that that projecting thing does not exist. I can only say the projected does not exist. That projecting thing is the Supreme Brahman. This is what. And then it is evening and everybody goes to do their Gayatri or whatever. O Rama, even as from the waking state experience next day, there is no materiality in the world, as seen in a dream, though while dreaming the objects appear to be solid, this world appears to be material but is only pure consciousness. Like, you know how a dream is. We have discussed it many times. In a dream, you don't know it is a dream, it's a reality. When you come out of the dream, then you say, I had a dream. But in the dream, it was very real. You did everything that you do in the waking state. But when you wake up, oh, this is a dream, you have dismissed it. Who knows? Now if I tell you, this is a dream, you will not believe it because in the dream you didn't believe it's a dream, did you? Maybe there is a state when you suddenly wake up from this and say, oh my God, what a long dream. Possible. Possible, just giving you alternate points of view to decide. Could be. And when you wake up, you'll say, oh, there was no Yoga Vasishtha, there was no M, there was nothing, there was no Kumbh, there was not me, nothing with that. But now you won't believe it. Just as in the dream, if in the dream, if you become M in the dream, I don't know how many have become, don't. It's terrible. Suppose you become M and you're dreaming, lots of people are sitting and learning things from you. And then you wake up and say, oh my God, but I am not M. Right? So, these are all relative realities, not absolute realities. In one state, the other does not exist, the other state, the other does not exist. Therefore, but the witness exists. The witness of all this exists. Now, when this witness, without witnessing, remains calm in his own state, this is the cosmic reality, the Brahman. Then there is no such identity of this Atman or that Atman. So, there is, to make all this crystal clear, O Rama, I shall now narrate to you the story of Mandapa. Now begins the famous stories of Yoga Vasishtha. This is where it begins. Now here is the story. Now I think you won't be so bored. I can see it. Most of you are in Shushupti or approaching Samadhi. Once upon a time, O Rama, there was a king on earth whose name was Padma. Rest. Even he at 93 is not lazy. He is still teaching dance, even though he can't move much. All the Bollywood heroines and others from Wahida Rahman, all are his disciples. They have all learned dance. He is still teaching and is 93, and the younger generation of his says that we are feeling tired. Anyway, once upon a time, O Rama, there was a king on earth called Padma. He was perfect in every respect. By his own nature and conduct, he enhanced the glory of his dynasty. He honored religious traditions, even as the ocean respects the authority of the shore. This is beautiful. He respected authority just as the ocean respects the rule of the shore. Right? Except during tsunami, ocean respects its borders. And he subdued his enemies, even as the sun routs darkness. Even as fire reduces hay to ashes, he destroyed evil in society. The holy saints and holy men resorted to him, even as gods resort to heaven. He was a god of virtue. He made his enemies tremble on the battlefield, even as a gale ruffles a creeper. He was highly learned and a master of arts. To him there was nothing impossible of achievement. Even as to Lord Narayana, there is no impossibility. This king had a wife. Oh, I thought they were laughing. This king had a wife by name Lila. He was highly accomplished, she was highly accomplished as a woman and was very beautiful. It appeared as if she was Goddess Lakshmi, consort of Narayana, incarnate on earth. She was soft-spoken. Her gait was slow and graceful, and her smile radiated the cool delight of moonlight. Now, I won't go too much into this. People from London will remember, we did the Saundarya Lahari, and after some time the Devi's description, I said, can we skip and go forward? Because they might think I am doing Kama Sutra. So, anyway, she was soft-spoken, her gait was slow and graceful, and her smile radiated the cool delight of moonlight. She was fair, she was sweet as honey, that, I don't know, maybe they tasted. Her arms were soft and delicate. Her body was as pure and clear as the waters of the holy river Ganga. And even as a touch of the waters of the Ganga gives rise to bliss, To touch her was to experience bliss. She was highly devoted to her husband Padma and knew how to serve him and please him and keep him happy. She was one with the king, not different, and shared the joys and sorrows. She was in fact the alter ego of Padma. Padma is the king. Except when the king became angry, she merely reflected fear. Vasishtha continued. King Padma and Queen Lila lived an ideal life. They enjoyed their life in every possible and righteous way. They were young and youthful like the gods, and their love for each other was pure and intense without any hypocrisy or artificiality. One day, Queen Lila thought, the most handsome king who is my husband is dearer to me than even my own life. What should I do in order that he and I may live forever, enjoying the pleasures of life? I shall immediately undertake such tapasya, austerities, as the holy ones would suggest in order that I may fulfill my ambition. She sought the counsel of the holy ones, who said to her, O Queen, austerities or penance, a repetition of mantras and a disciplined life will surely bestow upon you all that is possible for one to attain in this world. But physical immortality is not possible of attainment in this world. Lila began to propitiate the goddess Saraswati immediately, without even discussing this project with her husband. Goddess Saraswati appeared before her and granted her all boons of her choice. Lila prayed, O Divine Mother, grant me 2 boons. When my husband departs from this body, let his jiva remain in the palace. Because already she was told that death cannot be avoided. 2, whenever I pray to you, let me see you. 2 boons. What are the 2 boons? My husband dies, which I have heard is inevitable. May his jiva remain in this palace, body may go. And what is the second boon? Huh? What? Yeah. Whenever I pray to you, let me see you. That's all. 2 boons. Saraswati granted those 2 boons and disappeared. Time inexorably passed. King Padma, who was mortally wounded on the battlefield, died in the palace. Queen Lila was inconsolable with grief. When she was sunk in grief, the ethereal voice of Saraswati said, My child, cover the king's dead body with flowers, then it will not decay. He will not leave the place. The body. Lila asked, Please tell me where my husband is. And Saraswati, the goddess, said, O Lila, there are 3 types of space: the psychological space, the physical space, and the infinite space of consciousness. Of these, the most subtle is the infinite space of consciousness. By intense meditation on this infinite space of consciousness, you can see and experience the presence of one like your husband, not your husband, whose body is that infinite space even though you do not see him there. That is the infinite space which exists in the middle when the finite intelligence travels from one place to another. For it is infinite. If you give up all thoughts, you will be there. And now attain to the realization with the oneness of all. Normally, only he who has realized the utter non-existence of the universe can experience this. But you can do it with my grace. Lila began to meditate. Immediately she entered the highest state of consciousness, free from all distractions, called nirvikalpa. She was in the infinite space of consciousness. There she saw the king again on a throne, surrounded by many kings who adored him, but they did not see her. She saw all that. He is sitting there. He's built his own place there. Mind built, of course. But they can't see her. She's watching, but they can't see her. She wondered, are they all dead too? All the people surrounding and the husband, they're all dead? That they are sitting in the other world like that and they can't see me. Again, by the grace of Goddess Saraswati, she came back to her palace and saw her attendants sleeping. She woke them and asked them to request the members of the royal court to assemble at once. Vasishtha continued. Seeing all the members of the royal court, Lila was puzzled. She thought, this is strange, for these people seem to exist in two places at the same time. They were sitting there surrounding my husband in whatever world I went, and here they are sitting. How can they exist in two worlds at the same time? In that region, which I saw in my meditation, and there in front of me, just as a mountain is seen both inside the mirror and outside, this creation is seen both within consciousness and without. But which of this is real? And which of this is a reflection? I must find out from Saraswati. So she adorned Saraswati, and again she saw her sitting in front of her. Lila asked, be gracious, O goddess. Tell me this, that on which this whole world is reflected is extremely pure and undivided, and it is not the object of even knowledge. The world exists both within as its reflection and outside as solid matter, which is real. And now tell me, which is the real and which is the reflection? Saraswati asked, tell me first, what do you consider real and what unreal? Tell me that. Lila answered that I am here and you are in front of me, this I consider real. That region in which my husband is now, that I consider unreal. Saraswati said, how can the unreal be the effect of the real? The effect is the cause, there is no difference. Even in the case of a pot which is able to hold water, whereas its cause clay cannot hold water, this difference is due to the co-material effects produced by material causes. Hence, when you find no immediate cause for an effect, then surely the cause existed in the past. And what has existed in your past? Your memory. Memory is like space, empty. All creation here is the effect of that emptiness, and hence the creation is also empty. Even as the birth of your husband is an illusionary product of memory, I see all this as illusionary and unreal effect of imagination. I shall narrate to you. Now let me... Now let's continue. I shall narrate to you a story which illustrates the dream-like nature of... Okay, let me. Otherwise you will be confused. And I am not Saraswati, so... it's like this. Suppose I'm sitting here, right? You are sitting here, looking at me. This is not Yoga Vasishtha. You are looking at me and I am looking at you. It's all quite real. But the place from where you came or where you sat 10 minutes ago, is that real now or is it a memory? Then, now it is a memory, then it was a reality. Now it is a memory. Now, if something is called a memory, it cannot be now. It has to be in the past. Otherwise it's not a memory, right? If it is now. Now if it is in the past, and all that we have experienced in this world, till this point when we are sitting here, this will also move. Is in the past and is only a memory. Are we really not leading a life of only memories? I mean, think about it. We don't know really. Of course you will say, when I go back my house will be there. Maybe. Perhaps I wish it is there. But it's still a memory, because when you go back, what happens? This becomes a memory. So all that Vasishtha is trying to say, that the only reality we know is what is now. What is future, we don't know. It's only concocted by our projections. What is past is a memory. It is not a reality. What is real now? This, you and I are sitting here. And that every minute it is turning into a memory. This is what Vasishtha or Saraswati is trying to tell this poor Lila. Think about it. Forget about Lila, Vasishtha, it's a fact. Everything is a memory. And we live mostly in that memory world. Not now. And what is now? Next minute. It's a memory. So we lead a complete life of memories. No reality. The reality is that I see it now. The consciousness that is aware of it is the only reality. Everything else is past. It's a memory. This is what the great Saraswati is trying to tell the poor Lila. What language is that? Even as the birth of your husband is an illusory product of memory, I see all this as illusory and unreal effect of imagination. Now I shall narrate you a story which illustrates the dream-like nature of this creation. The holy man. Okay. Now the characters in the story that Saraswati is going to tell was the holy man known as Vasishtha himself and his wife Arundhati. One day he saw a colorful procession with a king riding a stately elephant, followed by an army and other royal paraphernalia. Looking at this, a wish arose in his heart. Whose heart? Vasishtha's heart. When will I ride a royal elephant like that and be followed by an army like this? Saraswati continued. After some time, the holy man grew old and then death overtook him. His wife, who was highly devoted to him, prayed to me and asked for the same boon that you asked for, that her husband's spirit should not leave her house. I granted her that boon. Though that holy man was an ethereal being, on account of the power of the constant wish during previous lifespans, he became a mighty king and ruled over a great empire which resembled heaven on earth. Arundhati had also given up her body and attained reunion with her husband. Now is the suspense. It is only 8 days since this has happened. 8 days. But Vasishtha is already sitting here talking to Rama. It is a relativity of time. Now, just 8 days ago, this has happened. Lila, it is the same holy man who is now your husband, the king. And you are the same Arundhati who was his wife. On account of ignorance and delusion, it seems all this has taken place in the infinite consciousness, though in reality nothing happens. I don't utter falsehoods, sir. I am Saraswati, the goddess of speech. But I am telling you the truth. It seems incredible, but this kingdom appears to be only in the hut of the holy man on account of his desire for a kingdom. The memory of the past is hidden, and you too have risen again. Death is but waking from a dream. Birth which arises from a wish is no more real than the wish, like waves in a mirage. Even after the creation of all this in the holy man's house, it has remained as it was before. Indeed, in every atom, there are worlds within worlds. Lila asked, O goddess, you said that it was only 8 days ago that the holy man had died, and yet my husband and I have lived for a long time. How can you reconcile this discrepancy? Saraswati said, O Lila, just as space does not have a fixed span, time does not have a fixed span either. Just as the world and its creation are mere appearances, a moment and an epoch are also imaginary, not real. In the twinkling of an eye, the jiva undergoes the illusion of the death experience, forgets what happened before that, and in the infinite consciousness thinks, I am this, I am his son, I am so many years old, etc. Even as in a dream, there is birth, death and relationship, all in a very short time. And even as a lover feels that a single night without his beloved is an epoch, the jiva thinks of experienced and non-experienced objects in the twinkling of an eye. And immediately thereafter, he imagined those things of the world to be real. Even those things which he had not experienced or seen present themselves as a dream. The world and this creation is nothing but memory, dream. Distance and measures of time are hallucinations. There is one kind of knowledge, memory. There is another which is not based on memory of past experiences. This is the fortuitous meeting of atoms in consciousness which produce their own effects. Saraswati continued. Liberation is the realization of the total non-existence of the universe as such. This is different from mere denial of the existence of the ego and the universe. That denial is half knowledge. Liberation is to realize that all this is pure consciousness. Lila said, O goddess, your words are truly enlightening. However, since I have never been exposed to them before, the wisdom is not well grounded. I wish to see the original house of holy Vasishtha. Saraswati said, O Lila, give up this form of yours and attain pure spiritual insight. For only Brahman can really see or realize Brahman. By the persistent practice of meditation, your body will become once more pure consciousness. I see even my body as consciousness. You do not. For you, it's matter. Such ignorance arises of his own accord, but is dispelled by wisdom and inquiry. There is but one pure consciousness. Now this is again discussing the same. I will read last paragraph. Thinking of that alone, speaking of that alone, conversing of that with one another, utter dedication to that one Supreme Brahman alone that exists and nothing else exists, this is called abhyasa, or the practice by the wise. When one's intellect is filled with the beauty and bliss, when one's vision is broad, when passion for sexual enjoyment is absent, that is practice. When one is firmly established in the conviction that this universe has never been created and therefore does not exist, and that thoughts like this is world, this I am, that I am, do not rise at all. This is abhyasa, practice. It is then that attraction and repulsion do not arise. The overcoming of attraction and repulsion by the use of will is austerity. At this stage, evening set in and the court dispersed. Early next morning, the court assembled and Vasishtha continued his discourse. After hearing this from Saraswati, Lila and Saraswati both sat together in deep meditation. Vasishtha is saying now, O Rama, Saraswati and Queen Lila immediately sat in deep meditation and attained nirvikalpa samadhi. They have risen about body consciousness above. Because they have given up all the notions of the world, it vanished from their consciousness. They roamed freely in their wisdom bodies. Though it seemed that they had travelled millions of miles in space, they were still in the same room. Have you seen Matrix movies? But on another plane of consciousness, they saw all that was already in the mind of Saraswati, which Saraswati wanted to show to Queen Lila. Now, having seen the oceans, the mountains, the protectors of the universe, the kingdom of the gods, the sky and the very bowels of the earth, Lila saw her own house. The two ladies entered into the holy man's house. The whole family was mourning. On account of that grief, the house itself had a depressing atmosphere. By the practice of yoga, pure wisdom, Lila had acquired that faculty by which her thoughts instantly materialized. She wished, these my relatives should see me and Saraswati as if we are ordinary people. They appeared so to the mourning family. But the two ladies were of supernatural radiance which dispelled the gloom in the house. They asked the eldest son of the couple, tell us the cause of the sorrow which seems to afflict all these years. The son of the holy couple replied, O ladies, he didn't know it is. O ladies, in this very house there lived a pious man and his devoted wife, who were both devoted to a righteous life. Recently, they abandoned their children and their grandchildren, their house and their cattle and ascended to heaven. Therefore, to us, the whole world seems to be empty. Hearing this, Lila laid her hand on the young man's head. Instantly, he was relieved of his sorrow. He has become a Siddha now. Lila asked Saraswati, how was it that we were seen by this family of mine? We were not seen by my husband, who was ruling a kingdom when we visited him. Saraswati answered, then you were still clinging to your notion, I am Lila. Now you have overcome that body consciousness. Till the consciousness of duality is completely dispelled, you cannot act in infinite consciousness. Lila, you and your husband have been through many incarnations, 3 of which you now know. In this incarnation, the king has slipped deep into the snare of worldliness, and he thinks, I am the Lord, I am strong, I am happy. Though from the spiritual standpoint, the whole universe is experienced here, from the physical point of view, millions of miles separate the planes. In infinite consciousness, every atom of it, universes come and go like particles of dust in a beam of sunlight that shines through a hole in the roof. Lila reminiscent, O divinity, she said to Saraswati, since emerging as a reflection in the infinite consciousness, I have had 800 births. Today I see this. I have been a nymph, a vicious human woman, a serpent, a forest tribal woman, and on account of evil deeds I became a creeper, and by the proximity of the sages I became a sage's daughter. I became a king, on account of evil deeds done I became a mosquito, a bee, a deer, a bird, a fish, and again I became celestial. After which I became a tortoise and a swan, and I became a mosquito again. I have also been a celestial nymph when other celestials used to fall at my feet. Just as the scales of balance seesaw constantly, I have also been caught up in the seesaw of this repetitive existence. Now Rama has a question. Holy Sir, how was it possible for the 2 ladies to travel to distant galaxies in the universe? And how did they overcome the numerous barriers on the way? Vasishtha replied, Rama, where is the universe and where are the galaxies? Where are the barriers? The 2 ladies remained in the queen's inner apartment. That's all. It was there that the holy man Vasishtha was ruling as King Vidhuratha. It is he who was King Padma before. All this happened in pure space. There is no universe, no distance, no barriers. Conversing with each other, the 2 ladies emerged from the room and proceeded towards the village on the top of a mountain. Of these countless universes, O Rama, in some there are plants, some have Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and others as the presiding deities, which means there are many worlds. This is so foolish to think that there is only this earth. Countless universes. In some there is only an ocean. Some are solid rocks. Some are inhabited by worms. Some are pervaded by dense darkness. In some angels dwell. Some are forever illumined. Some seem to be heading toward dissolution. Some seem to be falling in space towards destruction. Since consciousness exists everywhere forever, creation of this universe and the dissolution goes on forever. All these are held together by a mysterious, omnipresent power. Rama, everything exists in one infinite consciousness. Everything arises from it and everything comes of it. Everything goes back to it. Having seen all this, Lila saw the inner apartment of the palace, where the corpse of the king lay buried under a heap of flowers. There arose in her an intense wish to behold her husband's other life. Instantly she broke to the summit of the universe and entered into the realm where her husband now ruled. At the same time, a mighty king who ruled over the Sindhu region was laying siege to her husband's kingdom. As the 2 ladies were coursing the space above the battlefield, they encountered countless celestials who had assembled there to witness the battle and exploits of the great heroes. O Rama, still standing in the sky, Lila saw the two great armies closing in on each other, engage in battle. As evening set in, Lila's husband held counsel with his ministers and then went to sleep. The two ladies left the place where they stood watching the fierce battle and travelling like a breath of air, entered unobstructed into the closed apartment where the king was asleep. The two ladies entered the apartment of the king like two divinities, resplendent like two moons. When Saraswati asked the king who he was, the minister informed the ladies that he was Viduratha. Saraswati then blessed Viduratha by laying her hand on his head and inspired him to collect the facts of his previous lives. Instantly the king remembered everything and asked Saraswati, "How is it that it's hardly 1 day since I died? It seems that I have lived in this body a full 70 years. Now, for us, the evening is approaching, so we are going for our meditation now, like they do in this. So I'm going to stop at 6:20. We have almost done 2 hours or more. Should be enough. Otherwise, your brains may burst. Because we are still on this Lila and that Lila. That's Saraswati. Okay, let me read this last part of Vasishtha's, then we will start in the afternoon from there. Interesting. Rama asked, "Holy Sir, if ignorance is non-existent in truth, then why should one even bother about liberation or about enquiry?" These are not new questions which people ask. Rama is asking this. At least Yoga Vasishtha recorded it 1,000 years ago. Holy Sir, if ignorance is non-existent in truth, then why should even one bother about liberation or enquiry? Vasishtha replied, Rama, that thought should arise in his own time, not now. It doesn't happen to everybody. The thought of liberation arises rarely to people. Flowers bloom and fruits ripen in due time. The cosmic Jiva utters Om and by pure will creates the various objects, just as the creator Brahma was well into this being. Even so is a worm brought into being. Because the latter is caught up in impurity, its action is trivial. The distinction is actually illusory. In truth, there is no creation and therefore there is no division at all. Vasishtha continued, in connection with this, O Rama, there is an ancient legend which I shall now narrate to you. I will start one para and then we will come back in the afternoon. In connection with this, O Rama, here is a story I will tell you. There once lived to the north of the Himalaya mountain a terrible demoness known as Karkati. A monster-like being, a demoness called Karkati in the north of the Himalayas. She was huge and dreadful to look at. This demoness could not get enough to eat and she was ever hungry. She thought, if only I can eat all the people living in Jambudvipa, the ancient name for this country was Jambudvipa. So it must have been an island at one time, Dvipa. If only I can eat all the people living in Jambudvipa in one meal, then my hunger will disappear. So let me engage myself in tapasya, for through tapasya I attain that which otherwise cannot be attained. So Karkati then went up to the snow peaks of the Himalayas and began her tapasya. In course of time, she had grown so thin that it looked as if she was a skeleton clad in transparent skin. Why did she do all this? Just to eat the whole Jambu Dvipa. I'll stop. Suspense. What happened to her? Karkati. You come back and I won't open the box now. Actually, I am trying to make it fun for you when it is serious, because you get bored otherwise.